So, Natalia, pleasure to speak with you.
Hey,
This is such a fun role in John Wick 4. You're John Wick's adoptive sister, and what I really liked about your scenes.
wait a sec. Because someone else, literally the guy before you, Steven, said this. We never worked out what she is. So she could be an adopted sister. We were like, maybe she's niece or cousin. We never quite worked it out because I think the Roma family is like such an expansive net of family extensive lunacy that we never worked out quite what she was. But we definitely worked out that I'm someone that definitely looked up to him hugely when I was kind of an adolescent, and now the game's changed. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, so I like that aspect because you can really feel that there is that history there in their interactions. So how was it kind of portraying that off-screen history? Like you said, maybe it's something else we don't really know, but making sure those interactions between them kind of had
Mm-hmm.
that extra depth because, you can tell these two know each other and have gone through a lot.
Yes, yes, I've said this before in the past interviews. I feel like they, with this extended Roman family, which probably obviously comes from Eastern Europe, and there's a few bases around Europe and going into America. They must have met up. In my mind, they last saw each other when she was a teenager and he was just beginning to really hit his stride as a proper assassin. And I imagine she really looked up to him. And it was probably a very weird family gathering, like a funeral, probably, or a wedding, or a Christmas. And they're deeply religious, maybe Easter. So that's the last time she kind of saw him. But I think she has looked up to him. I think though at this moment when he comes into her life, she feels he's kind of betrayed the clan, and also she is in like the full black hole vortex of grief, and she's very angry. So I think their dynamic obviously has changed over that time.
Yeah, she's certainly angry. That scene where Keanu's in the noose is pretty brutal. How
Yeah.
how was it, filming that? And what I liked about your character is that she's fully in control. How was it having that power in that scene?
It was, that's an interesting question because I felt very nervous on the day. I didn't, obviously with filming, you never know where it's going to start. You're very lucky if it starts, if it goes in sequence. And actually, they did do it in sequence because we had a short time in Berlin, and they luckily got the location, so it kind of went like that. And so that was my first scene. Me walking in that room, speaking Russian, which I don't speak, in a room full of all these, Russian speaking extras, a lot of them, and Keanu Reeves and a noose. So it was a bit intimidating, but I actually kind of learnt to breathe through it and remember that she is this high status, and kind of I tried to bring that into my mind as I walked into the room, that she's actually the one in power in this room, and that was the helpful thing to get through
Yeah, it turned out great. How was it actually learning the
it.
Russian for that scene?
We had a so I basically, it was during the pandemic and I had to go to Spain. Luckily, I had the Spanish passport. I thought otherwise I probably would have lost the role. Um, I went to Spain for 10 days before being able to go to Berlin to do it, and I had 10 days, pretty much as I wanted, with this lovely Russian guy tutor in New York, and I just went through it over and over and over again because, like music, I'm a musician anyway, so it's like I got him to record it as well. So whenever I went for walks in the park or for a run, I just listened to it and listened to it and listened to it. Um, the accent, the Russian accent wasn't too hard because I've done that before, so it was just kind of re-remembering where the tongue goes. But learning it as a language, yeah, it was a bit. It was an oral stunt, definitely.
And then there's that great scene where he's kind of accomplished what you asked of him, and then he's led him back to the family, and you brand yourselves. How was it filming that
Mm.
sequence?
Oh, I really like that sequence a lot. I mean, I always love it when you get to do a bit of prosthetics and you get any of that. It just adds more layers to it. I think it's a really fun scene because it feels like she's making it. I felt like a witch. That's what I felt like. I felt like this is my cauldron, and I was, especially because I was speaking Russian, it felt like an incantation, and it felt like bringing him back, and also it felt like that's the first time her grief has been able to go. You know, like, fine, we've done it. I'm burnt. I'm having a shot of vodka. You know, retribution is done. And it felt like a kind of her palate cleanser for her grief. So it felt very fun doing that scene for her.
And then everybody I've talked to that has worked with Keanu always has the highest praise. So I was just
Yeah, he's
curious,
lovely.
how was he as a scene partner?
He's lovely. He is as lovely as everyone says. He's um calm and personable, and you know, like he got his hair and makeup done in my same trailer, which sometimes is very rare. You know, some like big actors I've worked with before, you don't see them until you come on set. You literally don't see them. You see them for 2 seconds on set, and you don't really build anything. Whereas he would find me when I'd be outside having a vape, and we'd have a bit of a chat. So there was an element of that. He was trying to at least make me feel comfortable in the situation, which he didn't have to do at all. So that was lovely.
And then this whole movie is just off the wall stylish. I love the sets, everything looks great.
Yes, the colors, the music, the costumes, everything. Yeah.
What really stood out about working with Chad, the director, because he
Oh,
just has such a sense of style. It's amazing.
he's amazing. He is. I would work with him again in a heartbeat. Um, he's he just picked me up and made me feel everything was okay. I got there, and he made me feel like I was a lead. That's how he made me feel, which is how I think people that really succeed apparently make people feel very good. You know, they can make you feel secure in a situation that maybe you wouldn't. And you know, he must have seen like this actress coming in first time. From the moment he met up with me in the studio in Berlin, he was like, Nat, I'm taking you everywhere. He wanted to show me everyone, introduce me to everyone. I met the dogs, I met the stunt teams, even though I wasn't doing stunts. Like when I was doing the costume, he sat through like a lot of the times when you do kind of costume, any sort of costume tests and trying to find what the outfit's going to be, um, you just send it to the director because they're in their office or they're doing something, especially just for filming. No, he sat on the sofa for 3 hours. I mean, a really fun dress up session with him and me, and like, so he gives people time, and that's, I think, why everything works, because everyone feels very, very safe in his hands and feels like he sees them. That's the only way I could make sense of it.
Yeah, that's incredible. And one thing I've really liked about the John Wick franchise as it's gone on is just the world building has been so great. And they create
Mm-hmm.
these pockets that can be expanded upon. I know Lionsgate wants to, do more spin-offs, more within that world.
Yes.
And what's cool about your scene is, they work perfectly for the John Wick 4 plot, but you could see those characters popping up later and do more. So how
I
exciting
hope
is it
so.
that, we have that greater world of John Wick that you can have an
Yeah.
impact on?
Yes, and I think now there's going to be Ballerina that comes out that I've heard about, and I mean, it's just a fascinating universe, the underworld, these people, but also them all being such big characters, and um, the characters around the action as well. They're not just kind of mediocre, blah blah blah, simple people. They're always these people. You know, I think there's probably so many people that they're like, oh, that's my favorite character from the second one, or that one from the third, and that's what makes the interest keep going, and that's why you can have spin-offs, because people are interested in all the different characters' universes.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned earlier that you're a musician, and I saw
Mm.
that you play the accordion. How'd you
Yes.
settle on that instrument? That's not really many people's
uh,
go-to.
no, it's not. So I did piano my whole life, and I did all the grades, and I did all blah 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 blah, and then it kind of killed my love for classical music. I mean, for music, doing all this classical blah blah. And then I at 18, I was like, I'm never playing an instrument again. And then I was doing a play called Nights at the Circus with this company called Knee High, which are like, they're now called Wise Children. If you're ever in England, look up Wise Children. When you go see their plays, it feels like afterwards you want to make mischief and love and music. They're so naughty and loud, and it's like eating life watching it. And I was in one of theirs, and I had to learn to trapeze, and I had to learn to play the accordion. Well, actually, we had to all pick up an instrument, and I saw the accordion. The director, Emma Rice, was like, "Everyone pick an instrument," and she had this shonky accordion, and I literally saw it, and it was like love at first sight. I could transfer all I had learned from the piano onto this weird fucking instrument, and I learned it on the trapeze, and then from there I built up a band.
I love that. And are we gonna see more music in the future from you?
I hope so. We've got a few gigs this year, and we've had a kind of switch around of some of the players because of life, and life moves and people move away and stuff like that. But I'd love to create more music. It just gets harder and harder as people get older, and they're kind of where life takes them. It's harder to get together in a room how it used to be when we were in our 20s, just like play. But I really hope we can create again.
Awesome. And one of your early big roles was in the Harry Potter movies. Looking back on it, how do you kind of view your time in that franchise? And because it has such a passionate fan base, and that had to
Yeah, it
be
does.
quite a bit daunting to, walk into that so early in your career.
No, I'd already done a few bits and bobs in other films, so that kind of helps. But also, as opposed to John Wick, because John Wick, I was already a massive fan. Like, I had just during the pandemic, literally just before I had the meeting with Chad, and I knew that this was on the table. I just rewatched all of them. You know how we all in the pandemic just binge watched random stuff that we loved. Like, I'm gonna have a Bruce Willis day or whatever. So I'd just done that with Harry Potter. I just before when I did the audition the second time, because the first time I really didn't do well. The second recall, I had read the books and then I got really into it as a world, but I still hadn't watched the films and I wasn't nervous about it at all when I walked in. It's only when I got to the studio and I saw the scope of how big it was. And actually, when I went to the first premiere, that is when I was like, when I did the sixth film, when I was already in it, that's when I was like, oh God, I kind of felt I kind of felt it because before that, I was like, isn't it some weird kids film? I don't really get it. And then suddenly I could see visually see it, the impact of like the people and the paparazzi and the fans, and I was like, okay, I've entered into another dimension. Yeah.
That's really fun. And your character Tonks, like she's really resonated with fans despite, not having a ton of screen time. So
No, she doesn't.
how kind of has that been, just getting that positive fan response to your portrayal?
Um, um, well, I do some conventions, and that's always really nice because you kind of get to meet fans. But at the same time, a lot of people, they might have favorite character, but it's more that they're not really they're not really thinking about you. They're thinking about the world, and I think the world is what everyone's obsessed with, really. Um, I think Harry Potter works so well because, I mean, at the core of it, if you think about it, it's about a kid that is suffering child abuse, right? And finds his family not in family but in friends. And I think that's such an amazing message. And obviously, it's coupled with magic, which we all want to be real of all of us, and it's coupled with kind of really trying to process death as well, which is why I think it's such a successful thing because it does all those things for children but for adults as well.
And you were in such a great episode of The Mandalorian a few years back.
Oh yeah,
What
yeah,
did
yeah.
it mean for you to join the Star Wars universe?
Oh, I want to be in it more. I want to. I'm really hoping that I come back in Mandalorian. Fingers crossed. Um, I loved it. I remember I think it was January 2019. So it's freezing cold and horrible here, and I got this job offer, and I was like, I'm so happy to be going to Manhattan Beach in LA and spend 2 weeks doing Star Wars and wearing this amazing outfit. It was really, again, I felt very welcomed on set, felt really fun, um, and the way that she looked really helped get me into that universe.
And then my last question for you, you've been a part of so many massive franchises, like we've just talked about Game of Thrones as well. And just to be a part of that many huge franchises and be a part of that legacy, has that kind of sunk in, or is that still like a bit surreal?
No, it hasn't really sunk in. I think it hasn't because I'm always very small. I kind of dip in. It's not like I think if I was like a much bigger part in all of them, maybe it would sink in because it's like, I would be like a proper tally on my bed. But for me, I just feel like I'm this kind of actor that kind of boop, boop, dips into all these like. So I almost feel like I am part of the franchise, but a lot of the time I don't feel like I am because I do these smaller characters. Which, you know, in some ways is lucky because I rarely get recognized and I can live my life. But then at the same time, like I sometimes remember, I'm like, fuck, I did that. And so it's very surprising.
That's fun. Is there a character you get recognized the most for?
Uh, no, I get more recognized in Spain actually for Spanish films and stuff I've done. Um,
Okay.
and even for like stuff like Game of Thrones or Harry Potter, I think maybe it's because I'm the Spanish actor of in that like one of those worlds. So weirdly I get it a lot at airport security. Like maybe not so much in the
Oh,
street, but they look at me, Natalia Tena, are you in? And I'm like, yeah. So it's usually when I'm going through Madrid or something, or Barcelona, yeah.